Hi, if you're joining us on the live stream, then you are a smart, intelligent baseball fan because you're not watching the the New York Fest right now. Essentially, what's on Monday Night Football is the Jets and the Bills are playing. So if you're a Bills fan, though, welcome. If not, but I think 99.9% of Bills fans right now are watching the game. And if you are a fan of Aaron Rodgers or you're a Lions fan, you're basically you're doing one of these right now.
Yeah.
Humorous, quite humorous, yes.
Droll, very droll, yes. Whimsical, yes.
That is amusing, yes. Quite jocular, yes.
Yes, mirthful, yes.
Okay, that's enough frivolity.
4 snaps. 4 snaps. He's down for the count. Down goes Rodgers. Down goes Rodgers.
Down goes Rodgers.
Unbelievable.
Yeah, Lions fans like our friend of the show, Foster here, B Fost, celebrating Aaron Rodgers going down. I don't personally think I think it's bad karma, but I found it funny because in the entire offseason. Anyway, well, whatever. We're a baseball podcast, so we'll get into.
And
Welcome.
it might just be a sprained ankle. It might not be an Achilles, so we'll see.
Yeah.
So you turn in that game. Look, NFL football is king, and we know that. Like last week, for example, we didn't do a show on Thursday because we knew full well that Uber and I were like, look, Lions, Chiefs, no one's going to be watching. I mean, if you want, I mean, I should have done a poll if we should have done a show or not, but I was, quite frankly, I think I like the way, like I was, quite frankly, I think, really, honestly, as far as the Tigers go, doing the podcast, I think they actually turned out well. I think the way we did it was perfectly fine. We were in and out pretty quickly, and it was a good show. I don't know if we would ever do it. I don't know if we would record like that again. I think we will in the future, but like I said, your audience, but you really want to be able to kind of, like I said, take a step back and go, yeah, we're not gonna do something. So, by the way, please check out our friends over at Bleachers to Speakers who were just on. They are on our YouTube channel Monday night at 6:30. Please check them out. 7:30. Why does it say 6:30 on the thing?
Oh, I think they were on a 7 tonight, but I think it's.
Oh, 7. They were on 7 tonight. So, well, Tyler, appreciate that. I'd rather watch you guys in teams that are not the Lions. See, so we do know our audience. If the Lions were on, we wouldn't be on right now.
There you go.
But yeah, please check out our friends over at Bleachers to Speakers. They do a fantastic job breaking down Lions. They have production. I mean, like some of the videos, like because we still have some of their stuff in here. I mean, my God, it's beautiful. Props to June on that. June knows his stuff. He knows his production. Sharp guy, and yeah. Well, actually, let me have them on and tell you themselves.
What up, though, Detroit? This is June with Motor City Metrics. Check us out on Bleachers and Speakers on Mondays. Me and Foster, we're going to recap the football game. We're going to talk about Detroit Lions. We're going to give you our perspectives. We're going to break everything down from what we see because we are the fans in the bleachers, and we're bringing to you our thoughts and our views to the speakers. So check us out on Mondays at 7 o'clock.
All right, there we go. So June told you himself to check it out. And by the way, I was memorized by the screen behind him. That thing,
cool.
I was just like, so
love it.
But yeah, plenty to get to this evening on our end. So we saw yesterday, Sorry Gibson Long made his major league debut, and it was a pretty impressive one. We'll definitely talk about that. We'll talk about Parker Meadows kind of cooling off, which is expected. Is Carson Kelly worth keep around in 2024? That's a really good question there. Uper with the show sheet tonight. Isaac Praise about to smash 30 home runs. We'll talk about Chris Fetter's future a little bit because I thought it would be worth interesting because as the pitching continues to get better and the payroll for this year and who would you keep? And we'll talk about those three names here in a little bit. But Sorry Gibson Long last night, ladies and gentlemen, probably one of the best starts we've seen all season by a Tigers pitcher in terms of just stuff being nasty, just movement. The change was like a power change, and this is something he's thrown. Like last time I saw him in Omaha or against Omaha and Toledo, you saw that pitch going pretty well with him. The slider, the change, and we had him on our pot. We did an interview with him last month. He was talking about how essentially he changed the grip, and he went back to a changeup a pitch he wasn't throwing. He didn't throw since college, and the Tigers asked him about it. And as a result, yesterday he got 11 swings and misses, and so he was able to strike out Tim Anderson, which is always a good thing. And overall, the Tigers took the series too against the White Sox, and it was what was the stat on there? Like 30, they're 31 and 35 and 16 against the AL Central, something to that effect.
It's a good record. I'm not sure exactly, but yeah.
Yeah. Oh, there. Oh, thank you. Thank you, Blood, right there for the $5.
Exquisite.
Speaking of Dan Hasty, the West Michigan Whitecaps, by the way, and their season ended on a sour note. They were just a half game of the playoffs, but good effort by the Whitecaps. But getting back to the Tigers, yeah. So Clay Gibson Long really was just, in terms of, if we look at the breakdown of what he was throwing yesterday, this is where like he kind of lived dangerously on the top of the zone with his four-seamer, but he didn't. That's what he normally would do to get himself out of trouble, set himself up in the minors. But he only threw yesterday only 18% of the time. It was mainly change-up, slider, and that kind of sinker, but more like it's more of a cutter.
Mhm.
And he was able to really just, as far as like some of the calls, I mean, you got called strike and whiff rate of 47% on that, or excuse me, 42% on the slider and 47% on that sinker or cutter rather. Or again, they called it power sink. I think it was more like a power sinker, but either way, what was your takeaway from yesterday, John? Did you get a chance to watch?
Yeah, so I did watch. He went 5 innings. Unfortunately, Will Vest couldn't keep a couple of runs off the board. I believe he gave up 2 earned runs, technically. A great double play turned by the Tigers was able to save a run, or 2, honestly, because that looked like it was going to be a base hit. And yeah, for Sawyer Gipser Long, he had a 5.45 ERA in Toledo, 25 years old, acquired in the Michael Fulmer trade. Is a guy that can control the strike zone, doesn't walk a lot of batters. Velocity isn't really up there. And I posted a tweet, and maybe it's a little premature. It probably is, with, we're all overreacting to how good of a start he had, but kind of reminds me of Doug Fister a little bit, kind of a tall, lengthy guy. Here in the interview with, I think it was Natalie Kerwin and his mom, Sawyer Gipson Long's mom, that was really interesting. His mom was really hyping him up. I believe she said that Scott Harris and AJ Hinch are going to lead the Detroit Tigers to a World Series. That was something. I think he checks all the boxes intangible why he's a guy that's really easy to root for. And it just goes to add to the Detroit Tigers' depth of all these young pitchers that they have. Obviously, with Casey Mize coming back, you have Tarek Skubal, Matt Manning, Joey Wentz, who struggled a bit. You have Alex Faedo, Reese Olson. Now you add Sawyer Gipson Long to that. Gives the Detroit Tigers a lot of depth as they try to flesh out this rotation for next year.
You know how intense his mom is, by the way? His mom said something to the Tiger Minor League Report like, hey, how come my son's not like ranked on your top 25 list? Something to that effect. I'm paraphrasing a little bit, but she was a big fan of the Tiger Minor League Report and putting her, like, every time we put a clip out there, she was all over it. She shared it quickly, and the fact that even talking to him, he's just a low key guy, and he worked his ass off. And look, admittedly, when he came over last year, there wasn't a lot of fanfare because he came over in the Michael Fulmer deal. And so when you look at his numbers on paper, and he really just, in terms of like, when we had him on, and Tyler mentioned this too, he talked about his swimming days and how much that helped him. And you don't see that very often in baseball because usually now everybody kind of specializes pretty quickly. And so you look at his build. I mean, he is a built dude. He is, but he always got this long mullet thing going. And it's always looked like it's wet. He looks like kind of a rock star to me. Like, he's always like, but he goes out there and he's a competitor. Like, he is a leader in the clubhouse. I've heard nothing but good things about him down in Erie. And we were talking about it. We were talking with him. By the way, if you have not checked out the interview, it's on Tiger Minor Report on our interview series. The one thing that he learned a cutter in 3 days. I mean, he's the ultimate example of, the organization came up to him. Gabe Rivas, the Tigers pitching instructor, said, hey, we're going to teach your cutters. Like, all right, cool. And he was just so laid back about it. Unlike somebody who missed a start in Toledo over this weekend, who may not see in the Tigers uniform again.
Well,
rhymes with Mernbull. So, yeah. Oh, by the way, Tyler mentions too, a he plays piano, which I did not know that, which actually adds to the mystique a little bit of this of Tyler or Sawyer Gibson Long. It was also funny too because he was wearing number 66, and that was just kind of like rather.
Yeah.
He was hellish on White Sox pictures. That was bad. That was a bad joke. That was a bad joke. But
So
yeah,
he's like a keyboardist for 38 Special or something.
Hold on, yeah, that's a good one. Or what about the Georgia Satellites?
Sure. I like it.
John has no idea what we're talking about.
No, he doesn't know.
Not a clue.
Yeah. Two bands that they were a lot longer. They're out there a lot longer than people gave them credit for whatever reason.
Oh, yeah, 38 Special had a solid career. Very
Yeah.
underrated. Absolutely.
Georgia Satellites really had that one hit though, right? Really, the keep your hands to yourself. Yeah, that
Yes.
one. Oh my
Well, I'll
god.
tell you what. I thought, as someone who's not a pitching coach and not a scout, and sometimes I think it's overused by fans that, oh, there was such great movement, because you're watching on TV and how much can you really see?
Right.
But I thought watching those 5+ innings, you really could see some special movement on some of the pitches he was throwing. I mean, he had White Sox batters not just swinging and missing. He had people missing by what looked to be, 8, 10, 12 inches. I mean, they were waving at the pitches. So you have to take a lot of that, with a grain of salt. I mean, it is the White Sox. They're not very good. Also, it's the first time they've seen this guy, and he only had to get through the order, about 2.5 times. So it was a good glimpse of what he has. It kind of gave me some confidence in that strikeout number that he had at Toledo, because his ERA was elevated, but that could just be a couple of bad outings. But he had something like 51 strikeouts in 35 innings or something really nice like that.
Yeah. His strikeout, his K per 9 jumped from 8.25 to around just over 10.
Yeah, and you could see why. I mean, the movement was there, the deception. He's a big, tall guy, so I'm sure he's kind of has a little bit of Matt Manning to him where he gets that extension. I want to see more. I mean, obviously, the pessimist in me says, well, Alfredo Figaro had a great start once too, and where he's selling cars somewhere now. So,
that's a throwback there. Nice.
Yeah,
Nice. That was a really good throwback.
So, but I think he's more talented than Alfredo Figaro. But it's definitely, I hope he gets, 4 or 5 more starts here down the stretch. I'd be fine with, well, I don't know if there's 5 left, but if he could get 3, 4 starts, I'd certainly watch him with great interest.
Yeah. Let me ask you, Raj. So he had a 5.45 ERA down in the minors, but he did strike out 50 batters in 34 and 2/3 innings pitched, only walked 14 hitters as well. Gave up 8 home runs. So where was the ERA? Obviously it's a bit on the higher side. So why do you think that was in AAA?
Well, I look at it this way. It's not the ERA that matters here. And here's why. Because look at Reese Olson. Reese Olson had an ERA over 9 when he got called up. It's about the movement and how the organization looks at him. Because Scott Harris is going to go, hey, how does he really look? Because this is why you don't look at box scores, Chase Markle. You don't do that. You don't look at box scores. You don't look at those things and scout the box score. You don't do that. And this might sound like I'm being a gatekeeper or being a snob about it, but that's why you really have to watch baseball and pay attention to these aspects, because when you look at the fact that his K per 9 was a career high, it opens eyes, because all he had last year was a fastball, a slider, and a power sinker. Then he brought back his change, and that 4-seamer now becomes, he can use it on the top of the zone, and with a cutter, he can get left-handers out. And so the way in Deadly Ninja Beast said it, wiffle ball stuff, it was to the point, like, I'm with you. Usually I try to keep things in perspective, but again, even take away the fact we just talked to him. Look at this. This is what I'm talking about right here. Yeah. I mean, listen to this. Whoop! What do you do? Wait, it's like, it's not exaggerating. Look at that. It's insane. Like, he was able to, like, against Tim Anderson, and Tim Anderson is an aggressive hitter, but Tim Anderson also is a good hitter.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's, to me, what is a good sign about that. And so to answer your question, John, that's why you have to, like, if it's a guy like, for example, if a player A, okay, I'll give you an example. If player A has an ERA of 0.7 or 7.55, has 15, he has 80 strikeouts in 135 innings pitched. Pitcher B, same ERA, but has 112 strikeouts in 85 innings pitched. Who's going to get the call up? Obviously, the guy that can get strikeouts, because if he can get strikeouts with his fastball, because he's setting up everything else, that's what you got to do. And so, Reese Olson's fastball started to play up better up here because he was throwing his secondaries better. So I think that before in the past, if you looked at it, like if the Tigers didn't move like this, I go, but I in this case, in the last couple of weeks, or excuse me, last couple of months too, even Brandon White's numbers too weren't exactly. I mean, they were okay, but he was starting to get beat up a little bit towards the last part of Toledo. Doesn't matter. He was getting guys out. He was able to get Miguel Diaz, another one. Miguel Diaz is a prime example of this. How many times did I watch Miguel Diaz blow a game in Toledo this year?
Yeah.
And he's a completely different pitcher. It's like they suddenly were just like tweak, and then what are you gonna do?
So then, what should Tigers fans' expectations be for Sawyer Gipson-Long? Should we expect him to stick in the rotation as a back end starter? Or I kind of always viewed him. This is a very like surface level, just kind of a depth starter. I never really expected him to stick in the Detroit Tigers rotation long term. Can he actually do that as a back end starter, maybe a middle rotation starter?
I think right now, I think it's really a case of one of the things he has to do is go longer and deeper in games. That was something he was trying to do over the last few months between Erie and Toledo. So I think he could be a back end starter. Also, a guy, I think he has 4 or 5 pitches mix. I think that makes him more of a starter than a bullpen, because everybody, look at Alex Faedo's going to the bullpen, but I think Faedo makes a lot of sense because I think he's become, I don't know about you, Uper, but I think he becomes more of a 2-pitch pitcher, to me at least.
And I think that would be, instead of throwing your worst pitch 20% of the time, get rid of that and just go with your 2 best and try to get through a lineup once. And I think he could excel at that, to be honest.
Yeah, I think so too. I think Faedo has the stuff to really kind of get it done. I really believe that. Like, I really think he is the kind of guy that could be a good bullpen beast. And I think he's going to establish a role. Same thing with Wentz. I mean, Wentz, I think, has the ability to be a starter still, but I know people are going to think I'm crazy for saying that, but
he's hiding it better.
Yeah.
He's hiding that stuff a little bit better.
Although, you look at some of the metrics on him and Faedo through third time through the order, that's when they get roughed up.
Yeah.
And so maybe that's what the Tigers are looking at, quite frankly. And it makes a lot of sense. If that's the case, and this is where you talk about, John, this is why the Tigers still need more arms, because in reality, it's not a guarantee that Casey Mize is going to start the season in the rotation. Hell, I mean, look at Matt Manning. He's going to, like, you and I talked about this Thursday night, the same foot twice.
Well, see, that was just a freak. I mean, there's nothing he could do to control that.
I understand that, but what I'm saying, I'm not blaming him. I just think it sucks. It's unfortunate for him. It sucks. I've never seen anything like that. It blows. That's not his fault. Well, there's nothing you can do about it. But the same foot?
Yeah. I think with the crazy circumstance, it slows his development a little bit. It slows his work level down for next year, because you got to be, obviously they're always careful about how they're increasing workload. It was just all the circumstances conspired. It just sucks for him. It really does. Does it become a chronic issue with, how many times can you break a bone in your foot before it really starts to bother you? Who knows? That might be a problem that happens to him more when he's an old man, though. He remembers all those broken bones, but we'll see.
Yeah.
Yeah. It really makes me wonder about the Tigers rotation and just what it could really look like if they were at full strength, just with Eduardo Rodriguez pitching as well as he did. Matt Manning, even though he wasn't striking out hitters, he was still getting outs. Schoolboy, I think, has looked really, really good. He's had a couple of rough starts since coming back. So you have those 3 right there, and then you think of like what a Casey Mize could do, and then a couple of these young guys. I mean, the Tigers rotation, I think there's a lot of untapped potential there, but like you guys said, it's really just going to come down to if they can keep these guys healthy, and so far they haven't been able to.
And I think with Sawyer Gipson-Long, as I've envisioned it now, and obviously he may change the equation the better he pitches, and the longer he keeps it up, that'd be great. I see him more as going back to Toledo next year. Spot starter when they need somebody. If he earns a way back at the back end of the rotation, fantastic. That'd be great. But they're going to, over the course of 162 games, we've seen it this year, they're going to need a lot of options who can get them through 2 or 3 starts while someone's banged up. Those guys are invaluable. And it looks to me like he has the stuff that, at the very least, he's that Toledo, Detroit swingman who can give you a competitive start. And maybe he's more than that. And that would be great to see.
You know what? Here's the thing too. There's a reason why you see like maybe Lipsius here at this point get called up. I think that with the root, like we don't know the status of Perez because Winfield Perez might be injured. We did see that Justin Henry Malloy did come back to the lineup, I think Friday or Saturday, and he was back in there. You bring a situation where Lipsius may not be a Tiger after this season. And I say that because they can use him for trading for pitching. Sure. There's a couple of these guys right now. They have a surplus of guys they have to think about. I mean, Jace Young, Lynn Henry thinks that Jace Young could be on the major league roster. And normally 9 times out of 10, this is the same guy who trumped or braggadocious about Cody Clemens. Yeah. I mean, he was Cody Clemens' all-time fan.
Well, don't forget Danny Worth too.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Oh, I was a big Danny Worth. I was a big fan of Danny Worth.
Guys, come on.
He's just my guy. Like, I don't know.
Henning said Danny Worth was going to be the shortstop of the future.
I thought so too. Little 8-year-old me, I thought he was going to be the guy, man.
Hi, man. Like I never. Anyway.
I was 8 years old.
I know. In your case, John, I understand. But for the case of Lynn Henning, don't understand.
He was 68. You're 8. There's a little difference.
You don't know any better, John, at that point. No, but it is like in terms of even if by the way, Scott Nelly the Ninja Beezus says Scott Harris probably loves Cody Clemens. If he did, he wouldn't have traded him.
Yeah.
Just saying. But no, I think he's down in AAA Scranton, I think, as well. But it's a case where they have to make some decisions. And I think that what they're going to do is use that and maybe perhaps surplus of the offensive numbers that have done well for the minor league side, maybe trade him. Trade for a couple arms because it's not for sure thing. Again, you need as many pitchers as you possibly can. Yep. Just ask the Angels who decided to do it all 1 year.
Yeah, we don't need to talk about the Angels. I saw a report that they were going to open to trading Mike Trout. Oh, of course, Youper's got an Angels shirt.
They do have Angels shirt on.
Oh, yeah.
What are the odds? Yeah, I don't know if you guys saw that.
Other reasons too. What's up?
Yeah, I don't know if you saw the report that they were open to trading Mike Trout this offseason.
Yeah, I know. It's funny. I traded a couple of tweets today with our old friend Jake Bowes about trading for Mike Trout. And I think he and I were kind of both more or less on the same page that given his injury record and his age now, if you were assuming that full contract of his, I don't think I'd be that interested in emptying my farm system for that guy. I just don't anymore. And I hate to say that because I've loved watching the guy. I used to stay up late on for a West Coast game if he was playing somebody good against a good pitcher. Phenomenal athlete and talent, but he's been hurt so much. And now he's pushing 30, 31, 32?
I think he's 32 right now.
Yeah, man. I wouldn't put it this way. You said, hey, Jackson Jobe and Colt Keith for Mike Trout.
No.
I'd say no.
No chance.
I don't think I'd do it.
No, is somebody pointed out, Javi Baez pointed out here, that's only if Trout asks out. Who knows what's going to happen this year? I mean, you know what it would be, I feel like what's going to happen here, give it a month or two, and then the him coming home to the Yankees rumors would start. Like, it's just, that would be something that would be in the New York media or like New York Yankee fans would want so bad because their center field situation right now, unfortunately, Jason Dominguez is out until next year.
Yep.
To 2024, late 2024. I think he has a torn ACL. So that's a huge blow for the Yankees. And so
UCL.
Is it UCL? Okay, thank
Tommy
you.
John. Yeah. He's getting Tommy John.
Oh, was Tommy John? Oh, really? Wow. I thought it was a knee.
No.
Yeah, but I mean, we were on the topic of Tigers pitching, and Youper mentioned Jackson Jobe. Roger, I saw a tweet today. Jackson Job's last 4 starts at high A,
Oh, I
22
see.
innings.
Yep.
Yeah, 22
No
innings pitched, 2.05 ERA,
0
28
walks.
strikeouts, and 0 walks.
Yeah, we talked
what-
about that. I talked that earlier today with we had Scott Bentley on the Tiger Minor League podcast, and we heaved and we were like, ooh, about Jackson Jobe for 15 minutes today. And
So yeah, I
go
just
ahead.
like I know me and Raj have talked about doing trivia. We could do something fun here, like a true or false. True or false? Jackson Jobe has the highest potential of any pitcher in the Detroit Tigers organization right now.
highest potential,
Yeah,
highest ceiling, yeah. If that's what you mean, yeah, absolutely.
yeah.
Is it relatively possible when you see guys in Seattle like Bryce Miller and Brian Wu and a few of those others who really progressed quickly? Do you see Scott Harris jumping on that train if Jackson Jobe earns this, that he's in Detroit by, say, Memorial Day?
Next year?
Yeah.
See, the thing is that it really depends on how he handles Double A, because the one thing he has to do is keep his fastball down. I mean, still locating that in a pitch where a count where they just can't turn on it and hit a home run. I mean, that's his only problem so far in high A. I think it depends on really what he does in Double A. If he goes out let's say Erie calls him up and he stays for the rest of the season here, and he starts the season in Erie. If let's say he starts in season in Erie, it's unhittable, then yeah, you would see him in Detroit. I would say not even by Memorial Day, maybe. Well, yeah, Memorial Day is what, May 30th?
Yeah,
usually?
roughly. Mm-hmm.
I think I think also we can also check out what he's gonna, if he's gonna pitch in the AFL. That's another good indication too. If he goes out and rakes in the AFL at his age, that's gonna be a good that could be a strong possibility. He can make the rotation. He can make the rotation by middle of the year, but they would have to. But also depend. I really think that it comes down to what they're gonna trim off the 40-man roster.
That's a great point.
Because you got to think about it this way. They still have a couple Rule 5 decisions to make. So they have a lot of complex decisions to make. You might see 7 to 8 spots off the 40-man roster. So Philly, wait, I thought he was from New Jersey. Isn't Mike Trout from New Jersey? Or am I imagining that?
No,
he's from New Jersey. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so if it's closer to Philly, is it closer to Philly? I always associate New Jersey and New York together because everybody, whatever. That's the only thing I know about geographically speaking.
Yeah, I think North Jersey is New York, South Jersey is Philadelphia.
Okay, so is he Tom's River in New Jersey, right? I believe it is.
Could be
South Jersey. Okay, all right. Well, that makes sense.
It was a very small high school in a not great league, and it was a very rainy spring, and not a lot of scouts, as usual, got up to see him, and that's why some people speculate he lasted until the 24th pick.
Definitely. There was definitely. I know that for there was one of those things that was talked about. I remember hearing that on a podcast too. So
we got a good question in the chat.
Yeah, well, we'll get to that in a second. We'll get to Tyler's question here in a second because it's funny. Tyler O'Neill actually came up in another I've been on a Tyler O'Neill bandwagon for 3 years now. I mean, I wrote 2 articles about him, Mo City Bengals, and everybody was like, "Oh, why? That's never going to happen."
Yeah, that should be the drinking game when Raj mentions Tyler O'Neill.
Yeah, my love for Tyler O'Neill knows no bounds.
Yeah.
My last thing on Jobe, though, if he comes into spring training next year and really looks the part, and they, Chris Fetter and AJ Hinch look at each other and say, he's right now our 3rd best guy or 4th best, most talented guy in this camp behind Skubal and whoever else is there. And we know there's a line of thought that you need to use pitchers while you got them because they're ticking time bombs, all of them are getting hurt.
Right.
That's why I think we could definitely see him within the first 50 to 60 games next year if he's on fire like he is now.
Yeah. It really depends if he can stay. They're going to have to monitor if he can stay healthy and avoid any other issues. And yeah, I could see that. There's a possibility. I think there's another possibility with Jobe too, is that if it's not by Memorial Day, that if the Tigers decide to have, I'm not saying they will or not, but like maybe a hypothetical situation where the 4th or 5th starter, they're like, here, go in spring training camp. Who knows? Maybe he makes the team out of spring training camp. But I doubt that, only because the way the Tigers have been, the way Scott Harris has approached development. Unless he's the best. I mean, he might go out there and just blow everybody away. But that's why spring training numbers are so like, so yeah. There's I like the way Michael phrased it. That rotation has no length, innings limits everywhere, and that's another thing too. He does have. I mean, his arm does not have a lot of
Right.
wear and tear. I mean, he's been pitching since his senior year of high school, so it's not like he's. Yeah, we'll see what happens. I mean, I do want to address the question here for Tyler Parker asked the question here. What do you guys think of a deal for Brandon Drury? Wouldn't cost much and can plug in for second base for next year. I also thought about Tyler O'Neill for right field. As far as Drury goes, I think the Tigers are going to solve in terms of like, I like Brandon Drury a lot. I think he's a guy who would be a good hitter for this ball, or would be a good Comerica Park hitter. I don't know what his stats are at Comerica Lifetime, but I think he would be the kind of guy that really could play up well on left, like drive the ball. But I don't know. Like what gives me slight pause is if the tech. Also, my keyboard's just up working. That's fantastic. I look at it as if he wants to play a little bit of second base. I mean, the Tigers they have so many options at second base now. And this is a team. Remember 2 years ago, guys, they couldn't find a second baseman to save their life outside of scope, and they kind of had to settle with that. But Drury, and here's the thing: like, if you start him at third base, all right, but then what do you do with Keith? What do you do with Malloy? I don't know that there's lies the problem. I mean, you could platoon him also as a DH, maybe with Kerry Carpenter, because you have the left and then the right side. But I believe he's he's a right-handed stick. So yeah.
I mean, I have my own plans for who I want the Tigers DH to be next year. I think me and Uper talked about this a couple times. But yeah, Brandon Drury, 415 at bats this year, 20 home runs. Was a guy I know a lot of Tigers fans wanted to sign this offseason. We do have a topic that Uper brought up about kind of the infield for the Tigers next year with McKinstry, Short, and Ibanez, who could make the club next year. But in terms of Brandon Drury, I think the Tigers will probably look inward. Or I think they want to get younger. They probably want to find a player who they can build around that can be around for the long term. I think Drury is kind of a short term 1 or 2 year option. But yeah, Uper, what were your thoughts on Brandon Drury?
Nothing exciting.
Yeah.
If they got him, everything depends on the cost, right? I mean, if they're looking to dump some cash, and just get rid of him, and they want to dump him on the Tigers, and the Tigers have to give up a middling prospect for him. I mean, obviously that's fine. He's had some track record of success. He's also had some track record where he's just been okay. So that's fine. You need to roll the dice on some bets now and then. I think that's a good, professional guy to have on your roster. But if they don't get him, then I think there's 6 other Brandon Drurys out there.
Yeah, and we did get a comment from Joseph. Raj, I might need help pronouncing this last name.
This is Joseph Schweitzer.
Yeah.
Oh man, thank you so much. By the way, I was the one that gave him the tickets too. So thank you so much, man. I really appreciate that.
Exquisite.
Yes, and those tickets were
Off
actually
the Frickers building.
Yeah. By the way, those tickets are courtesy of.
Yeah. They're courtesy of my cousin who gave them to me. Then I gave them to Raj. Then Raj gave them to Joseph. So I really thank my cousin for that. But yeah, and then he had a good question too about adding a power bat like Jorge Soler, Teoscar Hernandez, or Jock Peterson, who are all free agents this offseason.
I think that's more possible than and I would agree with Richard. I don't think Drury's going to happen. I think that if there's going to be a power bat like Soler, I don't. It really depends on how the Tigers set up what they are going to do with Keith and Malloy, and that's where that's the biggest variable to me, at least, because if you love Cole Keith, which you said you have, but you're not sure where to put him defensively, whether it's at second or third. I mean, right now his numbers are kind of down because this is the longest, by the way, this is the longest Cole Keith's ever played in his professional career.
Mhm.
So it just could be a lot of just, getting down there and just getting run down a little bit. But honestly, I love Jorge Soler. That'd be awesome. But Uper, go ahead. I know what you're going to say. I think I know what you're going to say.
Well, no, I think all those names are great. And here's the thing. With all the payroll coming off next year, you don't have to give up anything for those guys except Chris Illich's cash. So to me, if we're rolling the dice anywhere, that's what we're going to do. If I was the GM anyway, that's what I'm doing, because I'm going to spend the cash. I'm going to get some guys who have some power in their track record, guys who we know are a little hit and miss. I mean, Soler has been terrible in his career, and he's been fantastic in his career. Teoscar Hernandez has had fantastic times in his career and also big, low depths to his career. All that's fine, but if I am just spending a few bucks on a 1 or 2 year deal for those guys, and I'm just going to roll the dice that I'm going to catch them on the upswing and, get a 32 home run season out of Jorge Soler, that's the way to roll to me.
I mean, does Malloy end up in the outfield? I could totally see a situation where, I mean, Harris said it himself. He wanted Malloy to get some more reps in left and right. So it could be a situation where you see Malloy in the outfield. But, I mean, it also depends on if they're going to try to keep – I think you're going to see more likely the case, because if they're going to try to keep Riley Green healthy, in which that's the main goal, then having Malloy out there would help, because then it gives you another option out there. So – but it really depends on how the Tigers see themselves with what they have currently. And I think even with the minor, in terms of even like free agents, I think you might not think of the typical household names. They might just do the smartest guy in the room, somebody who they're looking at right now, they've been targeting, they'll do a trade for. And if it's a minor, again, they're also going to, they're going to go and bargain bin shopping all day long. They're going to go to that Best Buy. You go to Best Buy now, it's depressing. There's no, you don't have like DVDs and stuff like that.
I don't know if I'd say it's depressing, because we did get Tyler Holton, Zach McKinstry, Andy Ibanez off
I was
the
talking
bargain.
about Best Buy. I was talking about Best Buy.
I thought you were trying to make like a
no.
Yeah,
I was talking about with Best Buy. I'm talking about the minor league free agent side of things. They have done buckus. That's where they've failed on that side. They were trying to do the same thing they did on that side of things, but anyway, how you go to Best Buy and then you go to that bottom bin bargain section and you see like 8 copies of Groundhog's Day. That is a case where if the Tigers are going to try to do it that way on the minor league side of things and see if they can get a potential chip out of that, and that's all they're going to do, then yeah. Ibanez, for what it's worth, Ibanez was a starting third baseman for the Rangers last year. Yeah. And so with McKinstry, I mean, the biggest one of them all is Tyler Holton. Tyler Holton, by far, was the biggest diamond in the rough finding they've had in a long time. I mean, we're talking, I can't remember like a guy that they just signed virtually out of nowhere. I mean, Albuquerque comes to mind, too, because he wasn't a household name and he, in terms of just getting an arm like that. But, yeah, I like John Beretti. Joseph's suggestion as middle infield depth. That's a good suggestion, too.
Yeah. Can I take a crack at Joseph's comment? Because I think Jorge Soler is a little too up and down for me. He had a really down year last year, really good year this year. I don't know about that. Teoscar Hernandez, I feel like, is going to want a long-term contract. If he does settle for a 1 or 2 year deal, I'd be all for that. But I think he's going to be a guy that's going to ask for 3, 4, 5 years. And then Jock Peterson, I mean, he's a good left-handed bat, but we do have a lot of left-handed bats in the outfit already with Riley Green, Kale Badu, Parker Meadows, Kerry Carpenter. And Raj, I know I've mentioned this to Uper, and I want to get the chat's comments on this as well. I'm a big fan of the Detroit Tigers trying to sign Rhys Hoskins this offseason and playing him at DH and then moving Kerry Carpenter to the outfield. I think the Tigers need another big right-handed bat in the middle of that lineup. Raj, I've gotten Uper's thoughts. I want to know Raj's thoughts, and by the looks of it, I don't I don't suspect you're a big fan of that proposal right there.
Dead. This is the garbage you give me.
That to me.
Why?
Say that
Why?
to anybody. Say it to somebody.
What? Why?
You only get one DH, right? You know
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
You only get one. There's only
Yeah,
one.
Rhys Hoskins is my DH next year. What's wrong with that?
But you don't like Soler, as somebody pointed out in the chat. Why not Soler?
He was awful last year. Like, do you want me to pull up his numbers from last year?
I can. Okay, so how is he doing this year?
He's doing good this year, but he's also.
That's my point. Then, if he's doing good this year, why wouldn't I take advantage of what he's doing last year? Doesn't matter right now. It matters what you do this year.
But Rhys Hoskins has been good every year, and yes, he has. Yes, he has. Oh, we're getting in another one of these debates.
He's on. Okay, he's on the IL currently right now. Yes. Did he have 160 league and walks a few years ago? Absolutely. But if you want another, you're talking about, if Chris Brown was here, he would say Spencer Torkelson, because that's what you have right there. You have a guy who does walk more, but yeah, the 30 bombs are nice before he got injured this year. That is nice. That's great. Cool. But the Tigers value defense. And so I think, look, Rhys Hoskins, I understand what you're trying to say. He's gonna be 30. So I don't know.
That's my guy. I'm planting the flag right now. I think that's a great addition. Like you said, Spencer Torkelson. Don't you want two Spencer Torkelsons? Don't you want two guys that can hit you 30 home runs in the middle of the lineup? Especially
and possibly struggle at first base defensively? No, I don't want.
He's going to be your DH though. Torkelson's your first baseman.
Why? Okay, but here's the question then: why are you going to sign? Or Kerry Carpenter is not bad in the outfield. He's proven himself to be a decent outfielder. However, if you can get somebody a little bit, I would go try to get a bat, a little different bat there. I mean, I don't like. Go ahead, Uper.
Well, I just think you have to move so many pieces around. Let's say, okay, Hoskins is at DH. Carpenter now goes out and plays right field. You probably have to, if you're going to go out and get another outfielder, you probably have to move Green back to center, and Meadows is maybe a fourth outfielder. I mean, you're really unleashing a lot of chaos, which is fine if you're upgrading the talent, upgrading the power. I just think that priority-wise, I just hesitate to think they're going to get only a DH. I talked about it the other day. A veteran DH would be great as a part-timer. I just don't know if a full-time DH where they got one guy planted there is in their plan.
Yeah, that's where I think because Tyler brought this up in a chat. Harris is going to have to be creative. I think he is going. I think the trademark to me, this is where he's going to have to make his move. I think the trade market will bring something back. Is Austin Meadows on his team next year? I don't know. Like you know what? Something tells me that he's not going to be. They're just going to go about it and respect his wishes, and he may go a different way. To me, I'm on the train with somebody. Dave Loria tweeted about the how Isaac Paredes, which kind of leads into what we're going to talk about next, about him getting 30 home runs. And I think there's not enough context with that, because people can look at it and go, oh yeah, the Tigers got fleeced. I want to know who out there thought that Isaac Paredes was going to hit 30 home runs in Tampa. I want to know, because if first and foremost, you're a damn liar. I did not like the trade only because I knew Paredes would just need some more consistent at bats, but I never thought, honestly, maybe 2025. You knew he was there. But the fact is, I think Tampa knew more than what happened with Austin Meadows, and they got away with it. The Tigers got fleeced, and we can say that now in hindsight. But at the time when that trade happened, Austin Meadows had a 30 home run season under his belt, and no one said anything otherwise. But it's a shame what's happened to him. It sucks. Mental health, trust me, I'm an advocate for that all day long. But I think the Tigers I think there's going to be a point here where they're going to look at it in the offseason really hard and go, they're going to have to make a tough decision on that. And whether he's on the roster or not, I hope he is, in a sense of just so he can continue to get health. but at the same time, I would never trade with Tampa ever again. No, honestly, come on. I mean, to me, to sit there, the way Tampa is so thorough with things, they had to know something, or if maybe the Tigers did and they didn't care. Maybe Avila didn't care when that happened. I don't know.
Well,
I'm not
yeah.
gonna sit there and pretend.
Obviously, they knew because they're around him, right? And they could potentially see like signs of that. But I didn't like the trade because I thought it was very reactionary. It was Riley Green gets injured, so it's like, oh, we're gonna scramble to trade for an outfielder, and I think Tampa had leverage there to where the Tigers kind of reacted and made a trade. And I thought, I don't know, I wasn't a big fan at the time. I thought it was very reactionary.
Well, they had to because they didn't really. I mean, last year heading into there, Tigers had no outfield depth whatsoever. I mean, we talked about that last year. Their outfield depth beyond Toledo and beyond last year was terrible. They had nobody. They had to make the move because they had no other. What was it? I think Das Cameron was still in the organization. I believe
You are insulting Vic Reyes with every word coming out of your mouth.
Oh, Victor Reyes. And you know what? And Deadly Ninja B said it spot on. Avila was just trying to save his job. That's exactly what it was. That is the ultimate reactionary move there, and that's
he definitely probably was trying to save his gig. Let's remember they were coming off a year where they felt they could possibly compete. They added Erod, they added Baez, so things were rosy, right? In Lakeland, they probably felt things were rosy, that this was a team that could take a step forward. Then Riley Green goes down. The chance to add Austin Meadows, the quote-unquote run producer, right? The RBI guy and some power, probably looked attractive to them. And to be honest with you, I thought it was a perfectly justifiable move. That was he was going to be someone, even when Riley Green came back, was going to slot into that lineup someplace, no problem. Lengthen the lineup with some power. Paredes, I had not given up on him by any stretch. But at the same time, I thought to get a proven player like Meadows, okay, that's just the cost of doing business. They also gave up the 75th pick in the draft. That was a little more of a bitter pill to swallow on top of Paredes to get Meadows, but I still didn't complain about it. I would have done the move. I really would have, I think. It hasn't worked out. That's just baseball. That's just how life goes. Did Tampa know more? I don't know. Maybe, but there was nothing stopping Austin Meadows this year, for instance, from saying to the Tigers, hey, they knew. And he hasn't done that we're aware of. Because let's face it, he had been fairly successful in Tampa. And even if he was having issues prior to that, he'd obviously gotten his way through them and was still able to play and produce. It just moved to a new level in Detroit. And I just don't know who could have possibly seen that coming.
Yeah, there's a lot of things that we don't see coming that happens to us every single day, and there are moments that it just. With that in mind, I'm sorry, I'm just lost my train of thought for a moment. I was just thinking about the premise of how that whole thing transpired with the call. I bet it was just one of those things that we'll never know because the HIPAA laws too. HIPAA laws are also applied here. I mean, I could be wrong about that, and I know somebody in our. All right, so Michael Mayer said this: if they knew the Tigers could have filed a grievance and they didn't, Avila had to know the issue. So
I don't think actually there is a HIPAA law. HIPAA really only, I believe, not as an expert, but I believe it only is about the healthcare provider sharing your information. I don't think it's really about your employer.
Okay,
Pretty
all
sure
right.
about that.
Yeah, there's again, I'm not gonna pretend I'm an expert about this subject and go on about it, but it's Paredes. Look, bottom line is Paredes had a good year, and I just want to bury once and for all. I just want to bury this topic once and for all. Mm-hmm. The Tigers, it's beating a dead horse. It's the constant John Smoltz for Doyle Alexander BS that we dealt with for a long time, and now it's passed on to a different generation.
Here's the thing: I think the conversation worth having is what did Tampa do to Paredes to unlock what Detroit never could? I would like to know that more in depth from scouts, people who really look at that. Seems to me they've obviously tapped into the power. It looks like he pulls the ball more. His swing to me looks like he stands a little more straight up and has some more uppercut than he used to have. But again, not a hitting coach, so I would need one to tell me that.
I mean, I feel like he just didn't even get much of an opportunity at the big league level with the Tigers. I mean, he had 172 career at bats with the Tigers. Now, he only had 2 home runs in those 172 at bats. I mean, maybe it was just he needed more at bats at the big league level. I mean, I'm sure Tampa, obviously, they have different scouts, different hitting coaches, different people helping him perfect his game. But I think that was the other reason I was a bit not upset with that trade. Is just I felt like he really didn't get a chance to show what he could do. I mean, we look at Spencer Torkelson. Look how many at bats it's taken him to finally get going, finally look like the hitter we've wanted him to be. 172 at bats, I just felt like was not enough time to really be able to identify and just be able to know what you have in Isaac Paredes. But like Raj says, it's water under the bridge. I think a better conversation to be had is what the Tigers have now going on in the infield, because you had a topic about if you had to keep one next year and you had Zach McKinstry, Zach Short, and Andy Ibanez. I think that's a fun
That's my question for you guys. Gun to your head. You have to keep one no matter what. From McKinstry, Short, and Ibanez. Who's your guy? Who's going to take a spot on your roster as your kind of multi-purpose Swiss knife kind of guy?
I would have to go McKinstry, just because I think Matt Vierling is hopefully Matt Vierling is going to be your right-handed utility man off the bench. I like Matt Vierling. I don't know if I like him enough for him to be an everyday starter for you next year. I hope they can add some pieces to where Matt Vierling can come off the bench as your right-handed guy, and then Zach McKinstry can be your left-handed bat off the bench. Both of them can play all over the field. Both of them can play in the infield and the outfield. I like Ibanez too. I don't know if he has that much trade value. I think he's definitely the better hitter than McKinstry, but McKinstry also can swipe a few bases as well. So I'm going to have to go with McKinstry on that one.
I'm really surprised at your answer there. You know why I'm surprised?
Ibanez is my guy. I
was going to say, you're the one that Roger, Ibanez. How do you forget about Ibanez? You're the same guy 3 weeks ago that was all about Andy Ibanez and how valuable he is to the Tigers' cause. Now you just betrayed him. I see how that is.
I'm not saying he's. I'm saying he was a good. He was a good pick.
Look, no. Miguel's got a couple words for you.
The catch on the pitcher, we pass the side. I mean, come on, it's a bullshit. I don't play that game.
Yeah, you don't play that game.
It's not that I'm giving. It's that I think Matt Vierling is more impactful for this team than Andy Ibanez. That's it. So that's where.
Wait. What has Matt Vierling? Okay, so no. The question was those three. You can't put Matt Vierling in there in the mix to justify your cause. It's either Short, Baez, or McKinstry.
I'm trying to look at the big picture of trying to build this roster out for next year, and I don't think you're going to need 2 right-handed bats in Vierling and Ibanez. I think McKinstry and Vierling can give you that righty-lefty duo. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. Andy Ibanez, does he have options? I mean, he's a guy you could fill in. I mean, who knows? Maybe Andy Ibanez is your everyday second baseman next year, and McKinstry's coming off the bench. Yeah.
Who you got, Raj?
You know what? I would probably have to go with McKinstry because he can play the outfield. But see, unlike John, I didn't give no elaborate, it's just
you got to give some reason.
Look, and B. Foster said it best. All three of them have been so inconsistent. So this is why it's kind of a double-edged sword question. And he's right. I would keep the thing is, I like Ibanez a lot. Ibanez he can play anywhere in the infield, and that's valuable. However, when you do need an outfielder, McKinstry can do that. He can fill that void. So can Zach Short. I think Short is what he is. He's a guy he's a good clubhouse guy, and he's proven. Sometimes there's moments where he has just moments of just like what happened with yesterday with Lipsius, where he just has these mental errors in the field. But the thing with Short is you can find Zach Short. I'm not saying anything like Zach Short's a good guy, fantastic clubhouse guy, but you can find another Zach Short in the minor leagues. You can find another guy that can fill that void. I think McKinstry represents somebody that has that the ability to when he can draw walks. And defensively, he's not too much of a liability out there. I think just because he can do everything, and so that's why I would go with McKinstry over Ibanez, but it's like splitting hairs, really.
No, I think that's fair.
Yeah.
For me, here's the thing. I asked the question. I posed this question because I wanted you guys to narrow it down to one of the three, because let's face it, as we look at this team right now, all three are on this club, and all three have played fairly important roles here and there, right? I think a team, if they truly want to take a step forward, there's no way you can come back with all three of those guys next year. You have to challenge yourself to get better at least two positions of the three. So that's why I want to see which one we think is the most valuable. You guys lean to McKinstry. That's cool. I wish Andy Ibanez was batted left-handed, but he doesn't. However, I would take Ibanez. He's shown the flashes of the power. I really like his defensive game at second base and third base. He's also played a touch of outfield. I don't think he embarrassed himself out there. I think if there was a player who had a chance because of injury that they needed to plug in and play 80 games, I think he could, have some good moments. Now, he had the one tremendous slump this year when he went like 0 for 52 or something. I mean, it was some bizarre number. It wasn't quite that bad, but you remember what I'm talking about. If you bypass that, you see some decent production here and there where he had good stretches of power. So he would be my guy. I would jettison the other two and look to get better. But again, you're probably right. It is splitting hairs in some respects.
I mean,
Yeah, it really
I
is.
got, Yeah, I had a question because we brought up Matt Vierling. I feel like we haven't talked about him lately, and I want to get your thoughts, kind of just looking back on the Gregory Soto trade. With obviously Nick Maton not really working out at the major league level. He's down in Toledo. Matt Vierling's played a pretty big role for this offense, has an OPS plus of 94, is hitting 270 with 8 home runs. Do you think that trade, looking back on it, I mean, Gregory Soto this year, 54 and 2/3 innings pitched, has an ERA approaching 5 at 4.94. Looking back, do you think that trade is going to work out long-term for the Detroit Tigers?
I remember looking at Soto, some of the numbers. His percentage of actual clean outings was pretty good. I mean, he just had a couple of massive blow-up outings that spiked his ERA. But I don't think he's been that bad at points this year. At the same time, though, I would have probably made that same deal. I didn't have a huge problem with it. You trade relievers for bats anytime you can. Vierling, here's the thing. To me, he looks like a fourth outfielder. I think that's what he is. I don't, for the life of me, understand how he's ever batted in the 3-hole even one time, and he's probably done it 20 times or more. To me, it's baffling. That's the only word I can put on it. It's baffling how they batting him third. But whatever they have, he looks like a little dink and dunk hitter to the opposite side. He runs the base as well. He did turn on a home run the other night in a key spot to lengthen a lead late in the game for a homer. But I think that was his first home run in about 90 days, at least 60 days for sure. He's a quality player in the fact that he's a shade above mediocre and he can help your team in spots.
Yeah, they really, it's, I don't know, like as far as what they, in terms of getting what they wanted out of Gregory Soto, Dave, and I was talking about this with Chris, Dave Dombrowski is a master of telling you what you want to hear. And again, the Tigers they saw what they were able to get, what they needed to get at the time, which was depth, which they didn't really have in the outfield nor at third. They didn't really have a solution at third heading into the offseason. So, yeah. I think Vierling has his position he's got better position versatility, and he has shown that he can hit at times. He's just very inconsistent with it. And so, his glove out there in the outfield too. It's not going to hurt you. I mean, he's made some really good plays this year. But I think I would say I would go with like possibly be a fourth outfielder.
Fourth outfielder, and he should bat seventh when he does play.
Yeah,
not third.
Yeah. And then Nick Maton is 26. I know Nick Maton had a 5-hit game. I believe he had a cycle, if I'm not mistaken, down in Toledo.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, he's another guy, had a good season with Philadelphia last year, but very limited at bats. We'll see if he can find his way back to the Tigers, which I feel like eventually he will. I don't think he's a guy that necessarily has that much trade value where the Tigers are going to trade him this offseason. I think he's a depth piece they're going to keep around. As B. Fotzer said, he's an amazing AAA hitter. But Uper, by the way, Uper, your topics or your outline for the show has been on point. You need to make good stuff, Uper. You need to make the outline more.
At a moment,
we've like I said, when we have Uper had the opportunity to. I literally from the minor league podcast today at noon, and then I literally worked. It was like a nonstop work day. I finally I went to the gym. It was the first time where we're like, all right, I need to get the hell out of here because this was I was in here all day. And so I'm still in my gym clothes because of just it's been a long day. But yeah, you can check out the minor league podcast over at TigersNLReport.com or go to Spotify, iTunes, or whatever, or Apple Podcasts, wherever you listen to the podcast. And Scott Bentley again did a fantastic job stepping in today, and we really went into depth with Jackson Jobe. We also talked about a little bit about Lakeland. Lakeland will, by the way, for anybody that does not know, Lakeland will start the postseason tomorrow at home starting at 6:30 against Clearwater, and you can find that game on because they're not going to broadcast the game because they don't have broadcasting yet. Lakeland will next year, they will, but for now you just have to watch Gamecast, and I'm hoping that Sherry, who, by the way, shout out to Sherry, who's been sending me clips, can come through and give me some clips for the minor league report. So shout out to her. That'd be awesome. So in case you're wondering, the Tigers do start a 3-game series with the Cincinnati Reds, who are in the thick of the wild card hunt right now. So these games for the Reds are very, very important. As if we look at the standings right now, and I think we're going to start doing this towards the end of the podcast for now on our second show of the week. I think we're just going to focus on, and we did this to wrap up on Thursday too. But so right now, as it stands, if we're looking at what are for the wild card standings, the Reds are currently sitting right now. Let's see here. I don't like the way Baseball Reference does that. I have to find another way to go. I'll have to go to MLB.com because
I got it pulled up, Raj, if you want me to.
I got it. But here we go. Okay. By the way, Oakland's up 4-0 on Houston. Ooh, that's crazy. All right. So right now, as it stands, you're in the American League. Tampa, Toronto, Seattle, and Texas are your wild card teams currently right now. That's how right now, because Seattle and Texas are tied for that third spot. So Tampa Bay and Toronto look like they'll more likely be going. I think they're locked in.
Yep.
So Cincinnati is a game and a half back of Philadelphia, the Cubs, and the Diamondbacks. The Diamondbacks are coming back in there. So if you want to get back on that train, John, the Diamondbacks are in there for you.
There's not many better options, if I'm being honest. Like the teams below them, I think the Diamondbacks are probably the best choice. What surprises me is the Padres, man. They're 10 games under 500 right now, but they have a run differential of plus 61. They are 8 games out, but it doesn't look like the Padres are going to make the playoffs. I mean, they're one of the most talented teams in baseball, and I would say probably one of the most disappointing teams in recent memory, with them likely finishing under 500 with all the talent that they have.
You know, it's amazing with the Padres. If we were back in the old days when we were in the schoolyard having pickup games, right? And let's say we put the San Francisco Giants and the San Diego Padres in a line, and we were picking guys to be on our team, we'd all be picking the Padres guys. Oh yeah, we'll take him. We'll take him. We'll take him. But then you look at the standings, and the Giants are, a good 7 games in front of them. They just know how to get things done, and the Padres chemistry is brutal, and they just can't put it together despite the big names on the back of those shirts.
Yeah, you really chemistry is so important. Folks, chemistry is so important. If we don't have chemistry, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. You could there's no important element in chemistry and making sure that things blend together, because if the Padres right now, with the run differential they have, it's ridiculous. And Fernando Tatis Jr., defensive run saved in right field. You see that stat? It's like 26.
Yeah.
He's ridiculously. proves himself as a defender.
Well, I mean, last year they made it. They were 2 wins away from the World Series last year, and I think they're a better team this year. So, I mean, chemistry-wise, it's mostly the same guys you have around. You still have Blake Snell, Joe Musgrove, Yu Darvish. It's relatively the same roster. I mean, you got Tatis back and you added Bogarts, but for the most part, they're bringing back the same team that was 2 wins away from the World Series last year.
Yeah, it's just like they fired their best shot and they came back to earth. It's amazing. Now, I'm looking at this Reds thing. Obviously, I look forward to seeing the Reds this week. I really do. So I'm pretty excited about Tigers Reds. Obviously, I want to see Ellie De La Cruz. I'm sad that Matt McQuain's on the IL. But then they have the other guys they brought up, Noelvi Marte and Christian Encarnacion Strand and everybody else. Lots of talent could be on that field. It's interesting. At least MLB right now, they have TBD on all 3 games for both teams, so they don't have a single starting pitcher projected for the series. So it's going to be quite a little mystery here that unravels itself throughout the week.
Yeah, there's the mysteries. There's mysteries of the world.
Yeah, I got a mystery. Yeah, I got a mystery too because I kind of like
going on right now.
I like how we kind of like are touching on the whole league. I feel like we haven't talked about just Major League Baseball as a whole in a while. Texas, kind of their collapse. Do you really think Texas is going to miss the playoffs after leading the AL West for the majority of the year?
Well, they've swooned. I mean, there's no question.
They were my ugly. You remember on Thursday they got clowned. They were clowned by the Rangers, or they were clowned by Houston rather.
Houston's my team. I think Houston's the best team in the American League.
I thought you said that about Seattle, didn't you?
No, I'm not a believer I do not believe in Seattle's offense at all. I'm sorry. Their offense it's not going to play in October. I don't think so.
I'm really interested to see how that young power pitching plays in October, though. Power pitching is you need to miss bats in October, right? Because you have to limit home runs. So I'm interested to see, if they can get into a series and get Brian Wu and Bryce Miller out there and George Kirby, guys who can miss some bats. I think they can do some damage. I really do. But yes, if I had to pick right now, Houston, I think, is the best team in the American League. They just have so much experience. They have guys. We saw it when the Tigers played them. They have guys who are going to grind at bats. They don't give away at bats. You've got 2 strikes on them. Don't think you got them put away. They're going to make you work to put them away. And they tire out pitchers quick.
Here's a hot take for you. I think Houston's the best team in the American League, and I don't even think it's that close. Because I think Baltimore, even though Baltimore is almost 10 games better record-wise than Houston, I just think Baltimore doesn't have any playoff experience. I think they're pitching-wise. I mean, you're going to be leaning on guys like Kyle Bradish and Dean Kramer in the postseason. I think Houston – I mean, Tampa, they don't have Shane McClanahan. I don't know how much you can trust them. Toronto, they've just been so up and down with their offense, and Vlad Guerrero's down here. Like, I think Houston is the team to beat, and I don't think they really have an excuse not to make it out of the American League again this year.
I think Seattle can give them a series, but yes, I would agree with you. I think they'll get out. I think we'll see a Houston-Atlanta World Series, and I think it'd be a lot of fun.
Yeah, I mean, if Atlanta doesn't win the World Series, Atlanta should win the World Series, if we're being honest.
Yeah, they should. I mean, they already clinched the postseason yesterday. Was it yesterday or Saturday?
Yeah, a couple. It was either yesterday or Saturday.
Yeah,
it might have been Saturday.
It's September. They clinched it on Saturday, September 9th. You literally have 3 weeks to just do whatever you want to do, and that is. And I mean, it's ridiculous. Imagine, like, right now you're a bench player for the Braves, knowing full well that you're going to get some time, but you're also scared because you don't want to throw off the routine, and you don't want to throw off any of these guys pitching or just anything. So the next thing you got to do is really, if you're a Braves fan, you got to pray. Hopefully, you're religious fellow, and pray to God that nothing happens injury wise. You gotta you literally have to go the next 3 weeks and look at guys who are called up, who are hungry to play, and they do everything they can to make an impression. And you're playing the Atlanta Braves, and you go a little extra harder against Atlanta. Mm-hmm. If I was a Braves fan, I would tell, hey, look, do yourself a favor, wrap yourself in some bubble tape or whatever when you're done with the game, and stay the hell away from the streets. If you see them at Atlanta strip club, you say, "Hey, so and so, go home, get out. Don't. You know, like you don't want some Final Destination kind of crap going on. I mean, it's a little far fetched, of course, but still.
Well,
I mean,
certainly what I would do if I were a man, I would tell Ronald Acuna, Michael Harris, and everybody else, you don't die for anything this month. Why bother? You don't need to die for something. You don't need to run into a wall. Okay.
Yeah.
All that stuff. You need to be careful. That makes sense, Raj. I would be walking on eggshells too, and sitting them when I can, just to try to keep people fresh. It's going to be very interesting. They're built on the home run, right? Obviously, they've got like 260 as a team. They had a team record set by September 1st for home runs. Home runs, you know, this is nothing genius level what I'm going to say, but home runs decide the postseason, right? It's about extra base hits. People, the announcers will sell this fantasy that small ball is important in the postseason. It's BS. It is
yeah,
total
that's
BS.
what I'm laughing right now.
It is total BS. You have to get a guy on base, hit a home run, short sequences because you're facing the best pitching in baseball. The Braves come armed with home run hitters all up and down the lineup. It would be kind of hilarious if they go out and get stomped in the first series because they all of a sudden their power outing went into a total outage for a 3 or 4 game stretch, which can happen in baseball because crazy things happen. But by and large, there are home runs lurking all up and down that lineup. And to me, that just makes for a devastating playoff lineup.
I want to get your guys' thoughts on the Brewers because I saw a tweet a couple of days ago about the Brewers are red hot right now and they should be looked at as a World Series contender. I don't know about you guys. I don't see the Brewers as a real threat to really win a World Series this year.
Obviously, they have a couple arms. They have a few good hitters. They'll have a puncher's chance against whoever they play. But yeah, I mean, could they win 4 out of 7 against the Braves? I would be pretty shocked.
We'll wrap it up after this because it is getting. It's getting a little later than I anticipated. But as far as the Brewers go, I think that I'm not going to say automatically the conclusion with a lot of these things with the World Series. I always think that parity is part of baseball, but I think with the Braves and the Orioles this year, I think the Orioles don't. I think the Orioles could fall in the American League. I think Houston, because based off their experience, but as much as I love to believe in parity, I just don't know if I could see if Milwaukee. You want Milwaukee to kind of, if you're a Brewers fan or you're a fan of baseball, you want the Brewers to succeed because right now their stadium is. I mean, if they don't get a new stadium deal, they're going to Nashville, they're going Charlotte. Who knows where they're going? So you want them. I would personally like them to stick around in Milwaukee. And I mean, but then as Chris would say, sometimes we want things a little different because baseball hasn't had any expansion since the Diamondbacks. Since the Diamondbacks, yeah. So, or change of teams or anything. It hasn't. I mean, it's not like football where we've seen quite a bit since then. So
yeah, Montreal moved to Washington. That's it. I think that's the last thing.
Yeah, that's you're right. You're right. Yeah, I'm sorry. That was. Yeah, that's pretty much about it. So, but on that note, thank you so much for listening to Motor City Metrics here at TigersAnimalReport.com. Yes, please go check out the Red. That's going to be a fun series. I'm probably going to try to head down there at least one game this week. And then this is the last homestand for the Mudhens. So if you get a chance to watch the Mudhens, they're playing Columbus starting tomorrow. And Erie is at home against Richmond. And Richmond more likely will be their playoff opponent when they play next week. And I'll be out there for the 2 games out there for that. So that should be a good time. And I think that if Erie can get past Richmond, I think they have a chance to win the Eastern League. I really believe that because if they get Quincy DePorte back and they get Wilmer Flores, I think and even Jackson Jobe, I think there's a possibility, and I appreciate it. And I think they have a chance to do it. So thank you, Tyler. Thank you both Tylers in our chat for the comments. I really appreciate it. Yes. But please also check out the Tiger Mining Report podcast, what I did with Scott Bentley, week 22 recap. That's also out there as well. And we'll be back on Thursday to preview we'll see how it went with the Reds, see how Ela de la Cruz take over Detroit happens. He's going to hit a ball 135 miles an hour or whatever. Was it, did you see Acuna hit one Did I see that like 120 some miles an hour or something like that?
Really? I thought I
Yeah.
saw 122, but maybe you can't put much past Ronald Acuna. I mean, that guy can leap tall buildings. He's my favorite player.
Oh yeah, he is. Yeah, he's such a fun watch.
Yeah.
So all right, I think I've had enough moments tonight where I'm just kind of blown away, and I think that's a call tonight. I think that's just fatigue talking. So until
Fair enough.
Thursday, guys, we'll talk to you later. Have a good night, everybody. Wrecked him, damn near killed him.